Everyone makes some slips when speaking. This includes people in their own native languages. But if you know that something is wrong and you keep making that same mistake every time, then it is a mistake. Good news, you can unlearn these mistakes. Bad news, it takes time, repetition, and a lot of hard work. So, to help you out, I thought I'd go over the 9 most common mistakes Polish speakers make in English. Now, please bear in mind, some of these mistakes are more common for beginners when they're starting to learn English, and others are mistakes which people keep making no matter what level they are in English. Number 1, I have years old. The correct expression should be I am years old. So for example, I am 31 years old. This mistake is caused by a direct translation from Polish. In Polish you would say I have, literally, whereas in English we say I am. Number 2, in the internet. The correct expression should be on the internet in English. This is an example of a problem with prepositions and is again a direct translation from Polish to English. Sometimes we use different prepositions in English than in Polish. So, for example, we say in the picture rather than on the picture. Number 3, uncountable nouns. Now, in Polish there are some nouns which are countable, but in English are uncountable. For example, information, evidence, and news. In English we need to say an expression like a piece of evidence, a piece of information, or some evidence. We cannot say evidences or informations. Number 4, articles. In English there are 2 types of articles. The, which is the definite article, and a, which is the indefinite article. In Polish, there are no articles. This can cause a lot of trouble, especially as there are very small differences and exceptions and circumstances where you need to use one or the other. It would take a long time to look at articles on their own, so maybe that's material for a different video. Number 5, double negatives. In English, we don't really use a double negative. That is when you have 2 negative parts together. So, for example, I don't see nothing. This is a double negative because we have don't, which has not in it, so that's negative, and nothing, which again is a negative. This causes confusion in English, as we don't know if that means you didn't see anything, and it's stronger, or if it means that you did see something, because 2 negatives cancel each other out. Some people do say this in English, but it can be seen as uneducated or too informal, so it's better to stick with using only a single negative. I didn't see anything. Number 6, present perfect. Now, this isn't just limited to Polish speakers, and in fact is a problem many people, many different nationalities have with speaking English. That's because present perfect can be very different from the tenses in your own language. The common thread in present perfect is it connects the past and the present together. So there are several different reasons we use the present perfect. One is to talk about present results from a past action. As you can see, present connected with past. So, for example, I've broken my arm. We have a present result, the arm is broken, from a past action. The second is to talk about an event that was completed, but we don't say when because it's not important when. For example, I've been to New York. The important thing is that we went there. It's not when we went there. One more reason to use present perfect is when we talk about an event that started at a definite point in the past and is continuing to now, but we're not focusing on the action happening now. We want to perhaps say how long this action has been happening or since which point. So, for example, I've lived in Poland for 3 years. A final reason is to talk about a recently completed action, but again, we don't say when. So it could be like, I've just finished my homework. We're not saying when exactly we finished. It was a short time ago, but we're not saying when. The important thing is now it is finished. Number 7, confusing ed and ing adjectives such as boring and bored. This one can get you into a lot of trouble and completely changes the meaning of a sentence. If someone says, I am bored or I am boring, there's a very different meaning. So, in English, an ed adjective is a feeling that that person has. So, in our case, I have this feeling, bored. I am bored, I'm not interested. However, ing is what gives you that feeling. So, for example, a lesson at school is boring. It makes me bored. So if you're saying, I am boring, what you're telling the other people is, you should be bored by me, not the message you want to tell. Number 8, confusing teach, learn, and study. This is confusing because there's only really one verb in Polish that you use. So let's go over each of these individually and start with the easiest one, teach. So a teacher, hopefully, teaches you something. Easy. Learn is when you acquire or gain knowledge or a skill. So this could be learning a musical instrument, learning how to play football, or learning English, maths. Study is when you attend classes or you have to work to gain that information and knowledge. So, you may study English at school or study engineering at university. You may also study for a test. You need work and effort to pass that test, so you study. Number 9, confusing lend and borrow. Again, these are confusing because there's one verb in Polish, but in English we have 2. The difference between lend and borrow is the direction of the action. So, I would ask, can I borrow a pen? I need a pen. Can you give me one for a short period of time? Whereas lend, can you lend me a pen? You give me one for a short period of time and then I give it back. The main difference here is who is the focus of the action, and also we may use it differently depending on if we're asking one person or a group of people. So if we're asking a group of people, maybe we will say, can I borrow a pen from someone? We don't care who. The important thing is we need a pen. So we're asking anyone. But if we're asking one person, we may say, can you lend me a pen? We're being specific and asking them to do the action. Well, there you have it. 9 common mistakes Polish speakers make in English. Some of these are more common for beginners when they start speaking English, and some are common even for advanced speakers of English. If I've missed any, leave a comment below.